Welcome back to the Ruddy Brew. My name's T. Edge, King Beaker for the Brew. Again, we're discussing the Ashkenazi Jews and their origins and how the lies that have been fomented have influenced history.
So when it comes to this misleading and misunderstanding of the Jews outside of religion, why is there such fervent disdain between peoples? You have those who are known as Hebrew Israelites, and you also have those known as Ashkenazi Jews. The Ashkenazis had ancestors or family members who were put through the most gruesome torture in the early 20th century. But likewise, these Hebrew Israelites, awakening to who they are also believing and have the feeling and are under the impression that their ancestors were tortured and mistreated in Europe beginning in the 12th century. So why are they at each other's throats? I hold that we've all been purposely misled. Let's not forget that it was Visigoth Spain, Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, who reestablished a decree that condemned all Hebrew men and women to a perpetual slavery in 1492. This same decree came 9 years before the first Negro slave was brought into Spain in 1501. Ultimately, there were lies told. The lies weren't just told to those today known as black people. The lies were also told to those Germanic tribesmen who pursued this new world to make a better future for the European nations. The lies were told using the visage of those offspring of Hebrew and Visigoth or Germanic descendants. The lies were told despite knowing that there were times when the Germanic tribesmen who were soldiers who destroyed the temple were believed to have brought back Hebrew women to raise children who were raised in the Hebrew culture by mothers who passed on culture knowing that these same children they would marry back into the lineages of their fathers. These Ashkenazi Jews, they should not be disdained for following culture that was passed down to them. It's a beautiful thing to see them practice what was passed down from century to century. Sometimes some of the things that we see don't fit necessarily into the Bible, but it's their culture nonetheless. In the same vein, there shouldn't be any hatred toward anyone who is awakening to the idea that they descend from these Hebrews who were persecuted by these European Visigoth nations. No one should hate the other because the lies were passed down to all just the same. So going forward, let us have honest discussions. Let us have discussions that don't involve feelings of retribution. Let us have discussions that don't make us feel as if one hates the other. Let us have professional, honest, loving discussions that uncover truth for all, so that we can be back on the right path that God, the Most High, the Almighty, wants us on, so that we can become the people that He would have us to be. But in the meantime, what do you think about this information I presented? Do you believe I got something wrong? Do you believe that I made a mistake in presenting something that was presented? If so, leave some comments below. But as I always say, thank you for joining me here at the Ruddy Brew. Until the next time, peace.
It was even a year ago, I took 2 DNA tests on Ancestry.com and on 23andMe.com. And I sort of went back and forth because I know about the different concerns around DNA privacy and data privacy and all of this other stuff. But I said, you know what? I think it'll make a good segment. I'm going to take my DNA tests. We're going to have a DNA expert, a genealogist on the program to analyze my DNA. And lots of people in the audience found it sort of funny that I was determined to be 92% Ashkenazi Jewish, which was the highest percentage that the DNA expert we brought on had ever seen in anyone's DNA that he reviewed in his lifetime doing DNA analyses. I was the most Jewish person. I don't know if it's something to cheer about or something to be scared about given the political climate right now. Well, based on a larger DNA sample size and sort of fine-tuning the algorithm, over the weekend I got an email from Ancestry.com and they said, David, great news. We originally did your DNA background on the basis of 3,000 DNA samples and sort of organizing them and the data from them. We now have 16,000 and more precise algorithms, and we have an updated analysis for you. And I am here today to tell you that Ancestry.com can now report that I am no longer 92% Ashkenazi Jewish. I am, wait for it, 100% Ashkenazi Jewish. That's the new determination. This can't possibly be that's the latest news. And interestingly, before it actually seems like this is really pretty good data, because my original analysis was sort of vague in terms of the regions of Europe, or it was more vague in terms of the regions of Europe that my ancestors were from. And now that my Ashkenazi Jewish ancestry has increased from 92% to 100%, they've also fine-tuned the map. And it now is a map that points to 2 specific areas that, at least based on my family's known history, are the areas in Europe that we're from. So I think this is interesting, and I know people will write to me and they'll get mad. They'll say, David, how are you promoting these services that are going to use your data to do who knows what? I've heard just about everything suggested. I get that, and quite frankly, I've just calculated that I'm more interested in having this information than I am worried about how they might use my data, and that may be incredibly short-sighted. It may be something that I someday regret, and if you think that's going to be the case, get in touch. But for now, I'm sort of happy having this information.
I feel like we should do the overview. 99.4% of my ancestry is Ashkenazi Jewish. That is pure. That doesn't feel like a good thing. Let's look through this. How funny is that? You can pause this video at any time to just like click and read more. This one is pretty cool. It talks about different foods. Okay, but let's come back to this, because what is Ashkenazi, right? Okay. So I'm gonna just explain, kind of give you like a little summary, but Ashkenazi countries are Lithuania, Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, Hungary, Romania, and Moldova, which is super cool. Yeah, it's really, really, really Jewish. Things really came together over here. Interesting, I haven't seen this, but I want to go back to my ancestry composition. This whole thing. Damn. We really stuck together, didn't we? Whew. So anyways, there's that.
What exactly is an Ashkenazi Jew? Yes, I know by definition it's a Jew from Eastern or Central Europe. But why and what makes Ashkenazi Jewish DNA different from quote-unquote standard European DNA? Why is it its own category? What's in Ashkenazi Jewish DNA, if that makes sense? So to find out, I did some research and sought out DNA companies that don't have Jewish categories, so that I could get a more accurate breakdown and have my DNA assigned to specific countries and regions in order to find out what the hell I am, once and for all. So I came across this site called Living DNA, and according to them, I am 55.7% Near East, 42.8% Europe, and 1.5% Africa. So let's see what that is further broken down. Underneath Near East, I am 43.3% South Caucasus, which according to Living DNA means mostly Armenia, and parts of Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Iran, 9.2% Arabia, and 3.1% the Levant. And under Europe, we have two subcategories. So first there's Southern Europe, which I have 33.7% of, and Eastern Europe, which I have 9.1% of. Under Southern Europe, I have Southern Italy, 19.7%, West Iberia, 7.6%, and Cyprus, 6.5%. Under Eastern Europe, I have Northeastern Europe, 9.1%, which according to Living DNA includes modern-day Poland, Belarus, Ukraine, Eastern Czechoslovakia, and Northern Slovakia. Last but not least, I have 1.5% Africa, all of which is in North Africa. As you can see, all of this is much more detailed than 100% Ashkenazi Jewish.
So let's focus on Jews who wound up in Central and Eastern Europe in the last millennia, known as the Ashkenazi, who are now about 80% of all Jews living today for 10 million people around the globe. Now, the genetic studies tell us that this original Ashkenazi population lived in the medieval era about 600 to 800 years ago. They were half European and half Middle Eastern. And would you guess that that original founding population totaled a mere 330 people? Yep, every single one of the 10 million Ashkenazi living today descend from 330 people who lived between the 14th and 16th centuries. And given how acute the genetic similarities are of today's Ashkenazi, geneticists have determined that all 21st century Ashkenazim are literally mishpucha, which means family in Yiddish, being at least